Welcome everybody into the best damn pod in the land. It's Tuesday and we are here and we are ready to rock, talk some Buckeye football. A little bit of noise going on in the recruiting world and another big recruiting weekend last weekend. So we'll dive into some of that. But Dan, first of all, how's it going, man?
It's going good, man. I just like 10 minutes ago, I read an article. They've been starting to tease us a little bit with some kickoff time announcements and stuff like that with the season. And man, I got to be honest, I'm reading the lineup for that Labor Day weekend, August 31st and the 1st and everything. And I don't know, I might have to send Emily and the kids away for the weekend.
Just hunker down in the living room, bachelor style.
Yeah, I mean, I want to say it starts on Thursday with, like North Dakota State and Colorado, which
Yeah.
at this point I'm just checking in to see the upset.
Well, North
How
Dakota
I
State
feel
can
about
play
them.
some football, man. Those boys can play football.
Absolutely, they
Yeah.
can. Absolutely. So they've seemed to have gone down a little bit since who was it that left? Lance Leopold
Yep.
seemed to take a little bit of a step back. It looks like South Dakota maybe picked up.
They did.
Um, you know,
Montana's tough too. The
yeah,
Grizz. Yeah.
the Montana schools and
You got Mount
but
Union, Wisconsin Whitewater. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, they're all in there. So I'm just juiced, man. I can't wait. It's gonna be a long, long summer waiting for all that.
I get it. Yeah. Well, we love football, and if we could have year round football, we probably would. That's decent, anyways. So yeah, I before we get into the show, man, guys, like and subscribe, please. We appreciate all you guys, and we also appreciate the fact that you guys have let us know that we've had some audio issues. We have them resolved now. Dan is an IT genius and figured out what was going on, and
Friends don't lie.
we, friends don't lie. Yeah, so that's a good show too. I can't wait for the fifth season to come out of
Yeah,
that.
for
So,
sure.
but yeah, so we we're just talking before we got on air, and so Dan, Isaiah West, running back that was committed to Kentucky, decommits from there, puts a letter out. All of a sudden, he was in Columbus, and now he's crystal balled to Ohio State. More of a power back, and what I want to say is why I don't like it.
Okay.
And why I don't like it is because I think it has a direct impact on Bo Jackson. You know, I think Bo Jackson probably was okay with a class of he and Jordan Davison. And we've talked all along that, they may bring in a third running back. Maybe it's, a 3-star kid or a preferred walk-on kid from Ohio that just would be happy to be at Ohio State. But now, and I have to trust Coach Lachlan, but we don't have a track record here with him yet. But do you believe this impacts Bo Jackson?
I think it can. There seems to be more chatter about him not wanting to be in a three-back class than with Davison. But let me ask you this: why are we discounting Bo Jackson over Davison? I mean, it seems to me like you're assuming Davison is in the class, and that it's going to have to be a decision between Bo Jackson and this other kid if Bo's not willing to be in a three-person class. Is there a chance that we might prefer Bo Jackson over Davison?
I think there's a chance. Yeah, I guess that's that piece of me that, like, for the last 2 years I've been like, it's Jordan Davidson in his class and he's the guy, and he's going to break the streak with Modern Day. And I think opening that pipeline back up is critical. There's a lot of things lying, like what lies beneath for me, and it's that pipeline back to Modern Day. It's just like having Chris Henry out there, um, you know, talking in the ears of a lot of the guys in California. I don't think there's any harm in that. And so I guess maybe there's that niche or that issue with me, like, ooh, yeah, we could open that pipeline back up because there's a lot of good players that come out of Modern Day.
Yeah.
And USC's in the Big Ten now. Oregon's in the Big Ten now. UCLA as well. So having a foothold to some of the best players in California is not the worst thing in the world. So no, I'm not discounting that. I think if you threw it up in the air and he said, "You got to pick one." I'm picking the Ohio guy just because I want to keep him in Ohio. So I'm going to take Bo Jackson
Yeah.
and run with it.
The modern day thing with Chris Henry, I saw a little snippet the other day that more or less, said that his move out there was facilitated by Ohio State,
Mm.
and that they sent him and his mom out there and took care of them in order to open that pipeline back up, which is really interesting because he's remained rock solid with us, but he has taken some visits. He
Yep.
is going to USC, he is going to Oregon. I'm not worried about losing him. Apparently, his mother's got guardianship of him again
Mm.
instead of Pac-Man Jones, and like I said, that Ryan was involved with getting them out there, which is really interesting because that did happen, if I'm not mistaken, after Chip got here.
Yeah, it did.
Which you have to wonder if how much that you know because obviously the preference would have been to keep him close to home if they were
Yes.
worried at all about his commitment.
Yeah, I don't think they're worried at all.
Yeah.
I mean, I know that there was a lot of, for whatever reason, weird Brian Hartline negativity when the Jamie French stuff happened, and then like 2 days later, there's an interview with Jamie French. He's like, "Yeah, I'm still taking my last visit to Ohio State. They're still in it. And everybody made a big deal out of this non quote, I guess, that it was a quote, but it wasn't. I don't feel like there was anything there to it. And
Well,
then find out Vernell Brown, Brian Hartline was just down there talking to him yesterday. So my source is Kevin Noon, and he saw them in person.
yeah.
So
Yeah. Well, to be clear, Jamie French is the one that said his top three were,
yes, yes,
Miami Ellis. I mean, those words came out of his mouth, so I can't blame the reporting on that.
yeah,
Um, but you know how I felt about the graphic that came out, I want to say from On3 a few weeks ago, where it mentioned his 4 summer visits.
yep,
And, usually those graphics mention visits,
hmm,
but they went with his as summer visits so that they could, conspicuously leave out Ohio State's in season visit, right? So
yeah,
there's just so many games being played right now. I did, speaking of which, Baby Gronk flipped to Michigan. Thank God they can have him.
yeah,
Um, but yeah, I listen, man. In Heartline, we trust.
yep,
I always mention in our text group, and I'm not worried about it. I do think that I'm not shocked that there might be some hesitation on the higher profile guys just because of what the current room looks like, right? I
mhm,
mean, this next year we lose a Mecca, and Jaden Ballard, if he can't figure out how to be Tommy Boy and go to college for 7 years, we're going to lose him too. But other than that, you basically got 3 starters coming back
right, yep.
in
I agree with you.
Innis, Tate, and now granted, Innis and Tate, they'll be in their 3rd year and they could hypothetically jump after that year, but I can see where that would cause hesitation on some of the 5-star guys in this particular class.
Sure, agreed. I'm okay with the way things are going. I don't have a crystal ball, but I do think that, Hartline, he in the words of Jeremy Birmingham, he has a type. And so, he'll identify the guys that can play football without a doubt. And I think the On3, my feelings on On3, but they've done this thing lately where if a kid commits to somewhere that he had Ohio State in his top 7, he's like, oh, he chose Texas A&M over Ohio State just to drive up the clicks, man. And it
Yeah.
drives me crazy. Like, I can't remember the kid's name, but it happened recently, and like they weren't even in on him really anymore at all. And so it's just one of those things. It's just like the summer graphic. Any Ohio State has such a huge fan base. Ohio State and Georgia are the premier programs in college football today. And so if you include them, you're going to drive up your click rate,
Yeah.
and
Well, I mean, here's there's a little bit of inside info here. So, first of all, I was in a text group for a moment and then I had to get out of it because it was too much. It was just too much. But Hayes Fawcett was in there. And
Oh,
I asked him, I said, man, what's up with this? Like, is it that you just don't have time to validate it, which I completely understand,
right.
or is there a concerted effort here? And his response was, man, I don't have time to validate what these kids tell me, man. I got to trust what they tell me, right? So with that being said, rather than it be the edit guys that are putting that out there and have the motivation to say that, a lot of that's driven by the school they committed to.
Mm,
And they asked the kids, they said, hey, listen, in your edit, go ahead and put that you selected us over such and such a school. Usually it's a rival or a big name school like Ohio State, because that allows them to say, hey, look, Johnny chose us over Ohio State. Why don't you choose us over Ohio State?
okay. Well,
So
maybe
there's
my
so many
conspiracy is
there's
wrong.
there's so many games that are being played with it. I don't think your conspiracy is wrong, but I just think there's a lot more that goes into it, and it's
Yeah.
it's just that's why when it comes to rankings and ratings and stars and all that other kind of stuff and crystal balls, man, I take it all with a grain of salt.
Yep. Got it. All right. So on the, we don't do like I guess I wouldn't say like we focus solely on recruiting because that's not what we do. We do a little bit of everything. But as promised from Friday, so we're talking the week of June 14th. So an interesting one that I wanted to start off with was Isaiah Gibson. So he's that 4-star edge out of Georgia, Robbins, Georgia, and he's committed to USC, but he's still taking the Ohio State visit. Um, he's intriguing. He's 245 pounds, so he's not he's kind of right in that middle, that hybrid, that edge. But a Georgia kid committed in California, visiting Ohio State. Just I thought it was worth noting that a kid that's committed, he's still taking his visits, and that happens, it does, but you're gonna let that kid get around. If you're USC, I wouldn't let that kid get anywhere near Larry Johnson, but
Well, yeah,
um
it was so him and that Justice Terry guy, I want to
yep.
say, committed the same weekend within minutes
Hmm.
of each other to USC. And I think I remember saying to you, like, I'll be shocked if those hold true. It's
Right.
just so far away and so far in advance. Now, what's interesting about the Warner Robins area is, first of all, that's Big Ten football.
Yep.
It's South Georgia, and those kids in the past have had more of an allegiance to schools like Florida State
Yep.
and
Florida,
Florida, because
Florida
they're
State,
they're
Miami.
they're
Yeah.
they're so close to the Panhandle, right? So I don't know if that's a slam dunk, Georgia kid. Um, but yeah, I mean, getting them on campus is key. And man, I just tell you the vibe that we've got going on with our recruiting right now, and what's going on with it, and the type of kids that are showing us interest, and with the NIL money, it's a different world now. I mean, we're seeing that with the offensive line recruiting, that we're starting to, all of a sudden we've got momentum with a lot of kids that have just kind of come out of nowhere.
Right. Yep.
And they're not in traditional, regions that we will pull kids from.
Yeah, very true. And in that on that topic, so next up was Philip Bell, and he's a wide receiver out of Mission Viejo, California. He's 6'2", 195, multi-sport athlete. Interestingly enough, he runs 11.83 meters. So he's a number 16 wide receiver in the class. The kid can fly. Like that's 11 second 100 meters flying.
Yeah, I don't know if I can
And
drive. I don't know if I can drive that fast.
yeah, exactly. And so he's someone I personally like a lot. He's somebody that if we had him in the class, I would be like, all right, let's go. But his top five are really all over the place, quite honestly. So he has Texas or Tennessee, Washington, Ohio State, Penn State, and USC.
Yeah.
So it's not. There's no. I mean, you've got kind of two groupings. You've got USC and Washington, and then you've got the Midwest with Ohio State, Penn State, Tennessee. So, not really sure what to make of that, to be honest. But I like the kid a lot, and he's fast.
Yeah. Well, again, I think when you're starting to see some of these kind of wild last four or last five that are just kind of all over the place, I think it's I'm going to keep going back to it. It's the NIL. You
Mm,
know, what do a lot of those schools have in common? I mean, what's Tennessee have? Tennessee's got
money.
a war chest, right? We've got a war chest. USC's got a war chest. Washington just, came off of a natty appearance, and they brought the guy up from Arizona, my alma mater, to coach. And he's a good coach. He'll be there for 2 years because that's what his track record is. Traitor. But damn good coach, and they've got some deep pockets out there. There's rumors that Washington's starting to make inroads with Microsoft the same way that we're doing a lot of corporate stuff in Columbus. So
Yep.
that's something to watch out for. So yeah, to see these wild choices spread out geographically is pretty interesting. But that's got to be the reason why.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's a burner for sure. Now Mission Viejo, isn't that close to where Sane came from? Didn't he come from that area?
I believe so.
Yeah. So I wonder if there's a connection there.
Yep. Quite possibly. So the next two up, London Merritt and Marion Dye. So two guys that we've talked about a lot already on the show. London Merritt out of Bradenton, Florida, one of my favorite towns in Florida. 6'3", 250. I think he can play three technique. They have him as a defensive lineman. He's not stated as an edge. I think he can build. I don't see him being a one tech, but he could be a three tech. Marion Dye, 4-star edge out of Elkhart, Indiana. So there's a couple Indiana guys in this class that we like, Shanklin and Marion Dye. 6'5", 255. He's explosive, but incredibly raw. Florida State, Georgia, Miami, and Ohio State, top 4. I like both. I like both those guys. I think they both end up in the class, actually.
Yeah, no, I like London Merritt a lot. If I'm not mistaken, he came down from I want to say Woodward Academy in Atlanta before he went to IMG, and great school, great program, smaller private school, but they've put out some good players in the past.
They've had some big time guys come out. Yeah.
Yeah. So but I feel really good about him sticking with us. I do agree. He is kind of a tweener.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, 250, that's awfully light. For a 1, let alone a 3.
Yeah. Well, I think that think Mike Hall.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, Mike Hall was what, 6'1", 290?
Yeah, give or take. Yeah. He was probably played a little lighter than that. I mean,
he was, it was a big deal when he was able to have that 3 on the scale
at
the combine. Because that's what the NFL wants there. But yeah, I mean, that's awfully light. But when these kids come to camps and they get on campus, like these guys they're measuring ankles and shoulders and wrists and all sorts of stuff, and they can predict what kids are going to grow into.
Yeah.
And so that plays a big part in whether or not they think somebody can put on the weight that they need to.
I don't know if like I said, it's hard to predict a kid's trajectory and his size, but because he's a little taller, he's 6'3", I feel like he could get to the weight where he could be a 3 tech. But again, we'll see. So another interesting one out of Newport, Virginia, Messiah Delhomme, 4-star athlete. He plays both sides of the ball, and he's exceptional at both sides of the ball, and he's a kick returner. So he's a safety and kick returner, plays wide receiver. Interesting offer list: Virginia Tech, Syracuse, one of my sneaky favorite schools when I was growing up, UVA, and then Ohio State and Maryland. So very regional, very near home. Probably because he's listed as an athlete. I didn't see some of the big time offers you would expect to see, but he's Chris Gamble-esque is what I would say. Like, plays both sides of the ball, and does it pretty well in high school anyways, a high school version.
I mean, Chris Gamble-esque that's pretty damn good.
Yeah, no, I'm saying in high school. I'm not saying that would translate to college. I'm just saying, he's doing both well in high school.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, obviously, OSU's the outlier there, and it's the one that sticks out from all of those.
What, you don't think Maryland? I mean, they got,
No.
Isn't Tualia back for his 9th year of college or something?
I think they encouraged him.
Oh, they denied that, didn't they?
Yeah. Yeah, I think the school apparently, didn't endorse it as much
Mm,
as they could have to make it
mm.
happen. Um, yeah, I mean, interesting. I don't know a lot about him.
It was just an
That seems
interesting
like a
one.
that seems like a position. Yeah, we'll see. I mean, it seems like a position like he seems like a plan B.
Yeah. So what? Let me. This is where I'm at with this though. Is when was the last time we really truly had like an elite punt and kick returner? Ted
I
Ginn.
mean, that's what I was going to say. I mean, did Paris or Curtis return for us at all? I don't remember.
The last punt return we had for a touchdown was Jordan Marshall.
Yeah, I don't know, man. That's a Ryan thing. I think Ryan likes, he's so damn conservative with certain
Yeah.
aspects of the game, and
I'm
I
just
think
saying it would be
he,
nice to have one. It would be nice to
yeah,
have a guy that like is elite at that. But
yeah. I
then
don't, here's the analogy I can draw. Like I used to when I played college hockey, I used to hate either getting a penalty or having the guy ahead of me get a penalty because then it would screw up the shifts and it would screw up, the ability to go out there and, score a goal or set somebody up to score a goal, right? I feel like sometimes I feel like with punt and kick returns with Ryan, he doesn't want the offense to miss an opportunity to go out there and do something spectacular because he's such a offensive snob,
yeah.
and it's almost like he tells these guys to fair catch it or, don't do anything crazy or, whatever, just so the offense can go out there and he can show off.
Hmm. Could be. It could be. I don't know. So next up, Micah DeBose. So we talked about him last show. Yes, we want him in the class. Was committed to Georgia, decommitted, now trending towards LSU. 5-star offensive tackle out of Mobile, Alabama. So we won't spend too much time on him, Dan.
Well, he's the kid with Ohio ties, though, right?
Yeah, he does have
He's a
a.
he's a bucket list for me, man. Like he's the kid that I think you go and throw a pile at because
Mm,
he's just nasty, and that's one of the things you're starting to see now. Some of these guys that are on the O line board, all of a sudden, these guys are. I don't know what I was listening to somebody this morning, but they were like, these guys are finishers.
yeah,
They're nasty. They're driving people into the ground and out of bounds and everything else like that. And that's what that kid reminds me of. And I want that on our line.
yeah, I agree with you on that, especially. So next is Jonah Williams, 5-star safety out of Galveston, Texas, 6'3", elite talent. He's crystal balled to Oklahoma. Dude, like he is a freak athlete. Like I know we use that term a lot. He played wide receiver and DB. He plays baseball too. They think he could get drafted in the Major League Baseball draft after his senior year.
First round.
Um, probably ends up at a linebacker like a la Sonny Styles if he, like if he maintains his current trajectory. But holy cow! Have you got a chance to see any of his film?
Yeah, no, he's impressive. He is a freak, but that seems to be the thing that I think a lot of people are hesitant on is the baseball thing, and that's why
Mm-hmm.
that's why I think he ends up at Oklahoma is that they're going to tell him he can do whatever he wants, and
Yep.
I don't think we're going to agree to that.
Right. It's the old Miss scenario again, just like with Taiwan Malone, because we were in on him the first time and they were like, no, we think you should probably play football. And so Ole Miss said, hey, you play baseball and football, Bo Jackson. So,
Yeah,
yeah, I agree with you. I do think he ends up at Oklahoma, but I mean, I would take a giant swing at him for sure. So Cole Breeler, 3-star defensive lineman out of Princeton, New Jersey, not somewhere you would think of for talent, but Dan, he's a guy who you think will eat people. According to Twitter, and the place track, he's third. He runs or does track, doesn't play track. He does. He's a track athlete. Placed third in nationals in shot put. So dude's strong as a junior. He has Ohio State, Oklahoma, and Stanford. Top
yeah.
three.
Well, it it was so bizarre when I saw the kid's picture,
Yeah.
and it was just kind of like from here to here in his face. He reminded me of somebody from my childhood
Mm,
that was just a mean SOB bully. And yeah, that's why I said he looks like somebody that would at the bottom of the pile poke you in the eye and bite your calf.
yeah.
I
Yeah.
want him.
What about
Wow.
untie your shoe?
No, he seems a little bit too. Um,
He's not a true Michigan man then.
no. Oh my God.
All right, so then we round out with Blake Woodby and Byron Lewis. So Blake Woodby, 4-star cornerback. If you don't know who Blake Woodby is, you're living under a rock. Out of Baltimore, Maryland, 5'11", 175, absolutely can fly, 4.39 40, 4.05 shuttle, even faster in the 100. Um, he factors into probably that slot corner position, and it's actually kind of big because we did lose one in the transfer portal. Um, so think Sean or not Sean Springs. Gosh,
Sean Wade.
Sean Wade, brain malfunction.
I expect us to lose Woodby. There's a lot of
Oh,
smoke. There's a lot of smoke out there about him uh, potentially decommitting.
okay.
It just feels like the class is getting a little too big
I
for.
know it is getting big. I really like the kid a lot,
Yeah.
and
Yeah. No. I mean, I think. I mean, he's a top 10 corner in the
yep,
country, and
yep,
his measurables are fantastic. But I don't see us holding on to him.
yeah. Same with Byron Lewis, 4-star running back out of Fort Lauderdale, 5'11", 200, has the measurables, a little bit of a burst. He's interesting. I think he's just here for a visit. I don't see that, him landing in this class. We have a hard time pulling running backs out of Florida anyways. And then I don't know. It's,
We are all fraud had a hard
yeah,
time.
all
We got
fraud had a hard time.
he got left at the altar a lot over the last few years.
Yeah. So let me read you this list for the 21st, and you can just sit in awe. David Sanders, Devin Sanchez, Dorian Brew, Naeem Offord, Talon Taylor, Malik Autry, Zion Grady. And that's who I know of right now.
Yeah, that's I think that's maybe 20%
Yeah.
of who's going to be there.
Yeah, it's going to be a big weekend.
There's some quarterback. There's some 26 quarterbacks that I think we're going to see in for that weekend.
Yep.
Andrew Stargell is going to be coming back one of those weekends
Yep.
for an official. I love that kid. Yeah, no, that weekend is going to be huge, and
Yeah.
I'm anxious to see what the final list looks like because, I mean, we've got a lot of guys on here that are committed already
Mm-hmm.
and that are really really solid. Well, the two main ones are Offord and Sanchez, but I mean they're the alpha dogs of this class, right?
Yep.
But to get those Alabama kids back up here with Offord at the same time is going to be huge.
Yeah. So
And
you have
then
David Sanchez, Naeem Offord here, along with, to get in the ear of David Sanders, to get in the ear of Malik Autry, who's somebody that, for a defensive tackle, we really want. Like having this El Presidente of the fan club for Devin Sanchez's dad and Deetra Sanchez here, just talking to the parents. Like, you could not ask for a better setup to,
yeah,
if you're Ohio State, right?
yeah, and I've got to look at what the Cardinals training camp schedule is, but I wouldn't be shocked if Paris Johnson's not in town that weekend.
Mm.
I'm sure his mom will be, Monica Daniels for sure.
Yeah, she's a
Um,
great ambassador for the program.
Absolutely. Um, I fully I've told you I wouldn't be shocked right now if Sanders isn't a silent. I
Okay.
really do think we're going to get him.
Mm. I agree with you. I think he ends up in the class. So let me ask you then. So you said would be, we feel like, and I agree with you. I think he's trending away. Does that mean Dorian Brew is trending toward Ohio State? He'll be
That
in that
seem
weekend.
those two kind of went hand in hand. Is that if that would be might be leaving because there's starting to be a lot of smoke about Brew, being on board. One name we haven't seen in here yet was he. Did we talk about him last week? Where's McNutt? He's got to be coming this summer, right?
I'm sure he is. It's probably that weekend. I probably just missed it. I wanted to get your thoughts too on Talon Taylor. So he's somebody that all of a sudden Twitter started buzzing about because Heartline went to see him. Illinois kid, 6'1", 173. NFL bloodlines. His dad is Tavian Banks, played for Iowa, played for the Jaguars in the late 90s, early 2000s. Offers to Bama, everybody. Bama, Ohio State, Georgia, Florida, Notre Dame. Um, I think he's a good one. And I don't know, and I don't agree with some of the talking heads that he's a backup plan. I don't think that's the case. I think
No.
this kid can flat out play.
Listen, I think there's three guys that stand out above everybody. I think there's DeCorian Moore, French, and Brown,
Yeah,
and then I think 4 through like 15 or 16. There might be a little bit of a drop off between those first three guys, but it's a really, really deep class. And one name that we haven't that hasn't been on here over the last couple of weeks is who I really, really like is Quincy Porter.
yeah. Quincy Porter's
I
like
mean,
a football
he's
player.
a big body,
Yep.
and there's just something about those New Jersey guys.
Yeah.
They've panned out well for us, man.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely.
The DMV
Yeah.
area.
Yeah. I like. Yeah. I mean, it's no secret. Like I want DeCorian more. I just do. Like I want him in the class. He's the guy for me more so than even Jamie French. I told you if you asked me to rank him, Jamie French is third on my list of the the wide receivers. So it's Corey Moore, Vernell Brown, and then Jamie French. So if Jamie French, for whatever reason, his lankiness is the term I'm going to use, scares me, and so it bugs me a little bit. I don't know why. It just like a gut feeling. So um, and then I can't leave out the Malik Autry and Zion Grady being here. So Malik Autry, probably one of the gosh, I want him so bad for
Yep.
on the defensive line. 6'5", 320, committed to Auburn. I don't think he sticks. He's big. He's mean. He's going to be fantastic. He's a one tech. He's super quick. Got a quick twitch for a big guy. And you think about you think about why Georgia and Bama had been so successful. They get those 300-pound guys that you just can't move off the football in
Yep.
the middle of the defensive line. This is one of those guys. And then Zion Grady, edge out of Enterprise, Alabama, 6'4", 235. I think he would be fantastic to be paired with Justin Hill. So, Dan,
Yeah.
preference
No,
of
we
those two?
we need to throw a bag at Autry. I mean, 6'5", 320, and with
Yeah.
his get off,
Yep.
I mean he is what people have always talked about when they refer to an SEC D lineman.
Yep. Exactly.
I mean, he is just a beast,
Mm-hmm.
and we need to throw a bag at him. And there's a lot of buzz out there that he really, really liked us, and that offered in Sanchez and even Grady apparently is really, really high on us and working on him. I mean, Grady's the one that got Autry to come up here
Yeah.
with him. So yeah, I mean, I think we've got about a 2 to 3 year window to steal some guys out of what would have been slam dunk Alabama classes.
Yeah. Saban. Mm-hmm.
You know, so we need to go after it. And all indications is that the biggest donors and the biggest boosters have said go get offensive and defensive linemen.
Yeah, you were on a Twitter chat that I'm not, but the people the people in the know uh tend to agree with that assessment, and that there is a real focus on the trenches, and the realization that we won under Urban in the trenches, we won under Tressel with defense and in the trenches. So I think Ryan Day has come to that realization. And so yeah, there's a definite focus, and Autry is one of those guys, man, that if we could pull him, so I was trying, I don't have a great comp, but the first person that popped in my mind was Big Daddy Dan Wilkinson,
Yeah.
because he's another one of those big guys that they just like, had a quick twitch, played the run well, was over 300 pounds, and you couldn't move him off the ball, and had a decent pro career. So Um, yeah, I don't know. And Zion Grady, gosh, he's fast. I like him a
Yeah,
lot.
yeah. We need some of that southern speed on the D line.
Just give me all the guys. Just give me everybody I want on my list.
Just give me all the guys.
Give me all of them. I want them all. I don't care. Just sign them all up. I don't care if we're over the scholarship limit. Just pay for their
There
school.
is no more scholarship limit.
Yeah, pay for their school, Brian Schottenstein.
Yep.
Yeah. All right, man. Well, that's our list. So we, there's a couple more weekends there in June before summer camp begins. So we're not too far away. It is kind of silly season with recruiting where everybody's all over the place. But I did want to give a pub to, if you guys, I don't know if you've paid attention to this before, Dan, or if you're aware of it. I mean, you're probably aware of it. But Buckeye Huddle, Mark Givler and Kevin Dune, those guys do a Southern swing, and they go down and actually like talk to these guys. And so I follow that really, really closely. It's actually, and I tweeted this out the other day, it's one of my favorite things to look for in the summer because there's not a lot going on in the summer. And so like those guys, they drive city to city and they go talk to those kids. And I love it because then you hear directly from them.
Yeah.
So
I wouldn't, that'd be something fun to do one year is just maybe join them for a week or so. You
yeah,
know, you know, just to be exposed to all that. Plus, I think Newton's hilarious.
yeah,
Um,
he's funny.
he's a funny dude, man. But yeah, no, those interviews that they've had have been fantastic, and just to
Mm-hmm.
hear those kids down there talk about Ohio State, and our staff's out there, man. I mean, right now the head coaches can't go out and do visits
Mm-hmm.
and talk to recruits on the road, but the rest of the staff can. And there are reports coming. I mean, I'm almost wondering, if we've cloned some of them because
Yeah.
they seem to be absolutely everywhere right now.
Well, Laurinaitis was down in Florida. Heartline was down in Florida, singing for Nell Brown. There were, just everybody's everywhere, and
Well, the reason they're doing it right now too is because unlike Ohio, the South has spring ball, and all these teams are they have legitimate spring scrimmages against
mm-hmm.
other teams.
Yep.
So it's like it's a game.
Ohio
And,
will next year.
yeah. I mean, it'll be interesting to see. Are they going to have spring ball, or are they just allowed to do 7-on-7 now?
They're allowed to do 7-on-7. Excuse me. They will
Okay.
not have true spring
Yeah.
football.
I mean, these are full-fledged games that these guys are playing right now, which this is a topic for another day. I would love to see that happen in college. I don't know if it'll ever happen, but I would love to see you be able to play another team in the spring.
Yeah,
The
that would be
NFL, the
neat.
NFL does it during camp. Why
Yeah.
can't college?
Yeah, that would be neat to see.
They go and have joint practices.
Mm-hmm.
During the preseason camp, and then obviously they have preseason games. But
Would you
why
make
not?
those league games, or would you say
Yeah.
like Ohio U could come play Ohio, be at Ohio State?
It's
Or
just it's an exhibition game.
I know, but would you keep it where only Big Ten teams could play Big Ten teams, or would you?
Oh no,
So like,
no,
let's say
because
like Penn State would take the bus over and like be here for 3 days, kind of like what they do in the NFL. Like the other team the Giants come here for 3 days and then have a scrimmage.
yeah, I mean that would be amazing. And I don't. I mean, you're turning it more into what the NFL does than I
That's
was
because
just
of my
saying. Let them
reference
have,
point.
yeah, just let them play a game against somebody else. But um, yeah, I mean, it'd be interesting because it's kind of like, okay, if it's Ohio U versus Ohio State, what's Ohio U really going to get out of that?
I
It's
don't. We
almost,
might find a sneaker preferred walk on for Ohio State.
and that's probably why this will never happen.
Yeah.
But I don't know. There's so much to go into it, but let's put it this way: if it was to happen, I think you'd see some big matchups because it's going to go on TV and it's all about the money.
Yeah. It's a big 3-ring circus, man, for sure. All right. Well, I think that'll do it for us today, man. I'm looking forward to the next couple weekends for recruits, be interested to kind of hear what comes out of it, and what everybody's saying. There's definitely some elite talent coming to Columbus and visiting Columbus, and they, from all reports that I've gathered, the Ohio State has knocked it out of the park with these visits. Like, they are just doing a phenomenal job. So, great, good job, Ohio State.
I mean, look at the infographics that you see going around social media with
Hmm.
the amount of money that our players. I mean, there's only two or three other schools that can do that.
Right.
You know, I
Well.
mean, it was like $652 million on the defensive line.
Hmm.
In recent years. I mean,
Yeah,
that's
for the NFL. Yeah.
absurd.
Yeah.
You know, I
Well.
think there was one recruit that I can't remember who it was. It might have been DeCorian Moore, who when the receiver package. No. It might have been Malik Autry when that infographic came out for the defensive line, and he tweeted. He goes, "That's a lot of money." You
Oh
know,
yeah, it was. Yeah, I
with
did
the
see it.
eyeball
Yeah,
emoji.
with the
Yeah,
eyeballs. Yeah.
yeah. I mean that stuff's impactful, right?
Yeah. It makes a
You know,
difference. I mean, you think,
huge.
I mean, goodness, the defensive lineman, I was trying, who's the guy in Denver that was kind of a part-time starter for Ohio State, but then just got a monster deal.
Browning,
No, it wasn't Barrett Browning. I mean, Browning did get a great deal, but this, gosh, darn it,
Draymond Jones.
Draymond Jones,
Yeah,
like, he got coached up by the goat, man.
yeah.
So there's money to be had if you played at Ohio State, man.
And that's why I think we're underestimating the draft stock of some of the guys because the stats aren't there because they're
Mm,
asked to play within a system
yeah,
and within a scheme. But once these guys get to the NFL combine and start to go on visits and have their pro day,
yeah,
they're going to skyrocket up draft boards because of the precedent that's been set.
right. Well, there was, and now caveat, this is the Big Ten Network, but I was listening to some talking heads on the Big Ten Network, and they said they were talking about the amount of talent that returned to Ohio State and skipped the draft because they said, oh, well, there was only 6 players drafted or whatever from Ohio State, and that's really low. And
It was four.
he,
Yeah.
yeah, 4, okay. And they basically went on to say that there are probably 20 kids that are top 60 picks in next year's NFL draft on if they would choose to leave Ohio State. And I was like, 20? That's a
I thought
really
I
high
saw
number.
I thought I saw 15 in the top 100.
Okay, so well,
Um,
it's the Big Ten Network, so
yeah,
they're going to pump up any Big Ten team. But
yeah.
yeah, I had to sit down and really think about it. But let's say, for instance, Jordan Hancock. Well, your whole secondary, except for Caleb Downs, leaves. Sawyer's gone. JTT's gone.
Tylee.
Ty League's
Ty.
gone. That's I mean that's the amount of talent that just left your building. That those are all top 100 picks. I can't. I mean, Lathan Ransom's had his struggles, but I still think he ends up. Well, maybe not. We'll see. We'll see how he
No,
plays this year.
he's going to get drafted.
Yeah, but Hancock, Igmanosin, and Burke are all top 100 picks. So
Yeah, we'll do that another episode to really
yeah, I
kind
know
of
I got way off on a rabbit hole, but yeah, I
yeah
was like,
give
wow, okay,
we'll set an over under on number of draft picks.
yeah,
We're going to have more than those rat bastards up north had this year.
yeah, we're gonna break the record.
And yeah, I think we break the record this next year. I really do.
We're not going to make the record for most people in the combine that didn't get drafted. That's for sure. That
No.
honor belongs to Michigan alone.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Hey, they are record breakers.
they are. They're something breakers. Anyways, so guys, thanks for tuning in. That's going to do it for us today. You guys have a good week. We'll be back for Friday, Buckeye Friday. And it's not a true Buckeye Friday, but there's going to be kids in town this weekend checking out Columbus, so it's kind of sort of that way. But you guys have a good week. You stay safe out there, and as always, go Bucks.
Go Bucks.